Coming up this week on the Just Lifestyle Show 778, Garry and Richard are here, and we've got lots to talk about. Apple announcing their new ARM-based devices. We'll be talking about those. We've got Windows Insider news and what's new in the new builds. We'll talk about Surface Duo. Talk about your phone, some interesting stuff coming from your phone, and a little bit of retro chat as well. So let's get straight to Richard and to Garry. Richard, good evening.
Good evening, Ian. How are you?
Okay, great, thank you. Feeling quite excited by the news that we might be actually be able to do things next year.
Yeah. Well, what did you mean with the Xbox Series X, or
no, the new iPads, no, the new Apple MacBooks.
Indeed, yes. It's been a day of stuff, hasn't it? Really, today being Tuesday, the 10th of November.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that the news that there might be a vaccine or something next year. You know, who knows? Maybe we can go outside. Maybe we can meet in person next year.
Exactly. Yep. And we can go to a retro computer museum and just nerd out over all the old hardware. Yeah. It's going to happen. It's going to happen next year, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. I think having pent up all the time and having planned to do it for so many years, I think if we can next year, then we definitely should do.
Exactly.
Now is not the time to, or next year, or whenever it isn't the time to postpone things.
Definitely.
No. Right. Well, we've got lots of things to talk about tonight. I'm listening out for from my Alexa to announce somebody at the front door in case my son's Xbox arrived, but not yet. It's out for delivery, he said.
Did he go for a Series X or a Series S in the end?
S.
So the small one.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, because he's, like I said last week, I think he's got a big gaming PC, so he wanted just a small Xbox to go alongside it.
Yeah, you know, I'd be surprised. I suspect you'll find that Series S will make his gaming PC perhaps seem disappointing. I think, wow, this is quite an amazing bit of kit all packed into this tiny box. It's a good bit of kit, the Series S. Yeah,
it certainly is. And like you said, a really compact form factor as well. So, it looks really good, that. So he's looking forward to getting that. And as he's now going out to work and I'm working from home, I did say if it arrives during the day, I'll just unpack it and unbox it for him. If he goes, no, don't touch it.
You're a terrible human being.
Oh, and we've got there he is.
Hi, I'm here.
Yeah, good evening, Garry.
Good evening. Let me see if I can disentangle that camera a bit so you can actually see me. Oops, that doesn't work either, does it?
Well, you can see you.
Oh, well, yeah, I'm sort of chopped to the top. We'll try that. That's better, isn't it?
Yeah, that's looking good. Well, we were just talking about how Jack's waiting for his Xbox to arrive. It's not here yet, but his Series S is on the way.
All right, excellent.
Yeah, so he's listening out for it, but he now decides he's going to need a bigger desk. I think if he got the other one, he would definitely need a bigger desk. But I think he was using the Xbox One that he's got already as a monitor stand, I think. So I'm not quite sure he's going to do it because the S is quite small. It's smaller than the one.
Although the X doesn't look that big in comparison to the old one, I think that doesn't really. It's just kind of a larger. It's a more solid rectangular lump cube type thing, whereas as opposed to these are the more rectangular shape of the one.
Yeah. Well, I'll report back hopefully next week with how he's getting on with that. But and I said, "What are you going to do with your old Xbox?" He said, "I'm just going to keep it with my Xbox 360." So he's got a little. He's got a retro. He's got a retro cupboard like now with his Surface RT and his whatever his Nintendo things, the Xbox 360, and now his Xbox One going in there as well.
I see. It's almost like the Microsoft Vault of Forgotten Dreams.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, we've all got one of those.
Yeah, we have. Yeah. Well, great to get you both on the show again this week. So, like I said, it is Xbox news, but as we were just talking before we started recording, it's big news from Microsoft today. A big announcement, it's the big story.
Yeah, the big story. Obviously, Garry, .NET 5.
Yeah, .NET 5. Yep, properly announced. And it's been coming for a while, so yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I find it astonishing, really, that they chose to launch .NET 5 on the same day as the Xbox. You would have thought they could have maybe bumped the two things, so not quite so stuff. Because I mean, for my money, while I'm very impressed with the Xbox One Series X, or the Xbox Series X and Series S, I think .NET 5 is probably more significant to Microsoft as a company
Yes.
than the Xbox, I think.
Yeah, and when you get a product which is launched simultaneously on Linux, Mac, and Windows, it's probably a bit wider than some other bits.
Exactly, yeah. And of course, it's there's an awful lot. Do you reckon this could be the final death knell for the older, the .NET 4 series framework, or will that linger on for anything more than the legacy stuff?
Well, still people use .NET 3, so I guess that things will linger. It depends how well things are maintained and whether there's people out there to maintain things. The framework still work, but obviously 5 is a huge step forward. So I think it's people will migrate to 5. I'm certainly using it for projects. So
yes.
The great thing about 5 is that commonality. The fact you can run it on really truly cross-platform. If you miss the bits which are platform specific, but you can most of the core stuff will work on every platform you want to throw it at. So
I'm looking forward to some of my business applications then.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Richard running on his Pi 400.
Well, you may joke, but yeah.
Yeah, it's. I know that they've had some conferences, a virtual conference today, wasn't it? All about it, and it's WPF everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. I must confess, I'm not 100% sure really how many desktop Windows apps are really truly in development now. But I think .NET has a platform for developing backend stuff, and and obviously PWAs and web apps and things. It's a great framework, and they were very, very keen during the conference to kind of, I'd say big up just how important the .NET framework is, because it can sometimes feel, if you're not embedded in the Microsoft world, quite stale compared to some other trendier frameworks out there. But an awful lot of the world does run on .NET framework. There's no getting around it.
Yep. It's on my standard image when I roll out at work.
But that said, the Xbox Series X and Series S, they are nice machines, and they should be appearing on people's doorsteps today. So hopefully there'll be a few happy unboxings, and then the tedious update that always happens whenever you get a new thing out.
Yeah, and I think there was some Xbox Live issues before as well.
Yes, so. Xbox Live went down today, which is unfortunate. They said a surge in demand. I hadn't realized that they'd sent. You would have thought they could surely predict that, because they'd know how many they've sent out. So wouldn't call it unexpected demand. And does it not run on Azure? So therefore, is it not quite elastic? Just saying, just throwing these things out there.
Yeah, you've got somebody guys. There's too many people. Fire up another server. What's the password? What's the logon password?
Wakey. You can always hear someone saying, "We've run out of servers," because there has been a few issues, shall we say, with Azure in the last year, where in certain regions, including some of the UK ones, they have got very, very tight on capacity. I think just because it's the sheer popularity, particularly with the advent of more remote working and what have you. So I think some of these cloud services or whether they have felt the pinch because there was just this unexpected, I hate to use the word, but unprecedented surge in remote working, which meant suddenly the cloud has become very important. Yeah,
definitely. Everybody's trying to do it. Interesting, I've noticed this because I worked from home for a while earlier in the year, then went back into the office, now back working home again, and I see a change in how people are working in that time. Now, everyone's using Teams, and we've fully rolled out Teams, and you're kind of living in Teams, and I can see how that's changed from if you were looking, say, 12 months ago, when you perhaps use Skype for business for work communication, but Teams is very different, and it's become the kind of thing that you leave open all the time and stay in for, I guess, for a lot of people have got the same thing.
Yeah, sure. Many companies are also probably quite used to using Slack, and maybe even going back in the day, the likes of Link and things. So
Link,
Link. There we go. Or is it Skype for Business now? It's called, I think. I can't remember.
For now. That's going, isn't it?
That's going. Yeah.
That's going. Well, or is it going? Because of course Teams is not on premise. Teams is very much in the Azure cloud. So unless I don't know, will they bring Teams to the Azure stack at some point? I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure whether you'd really want to host Teams on your own servers.
Yeah, but the thing is, some companies have to because there's all kinds of regulation about where things like those messages are stored.
Yeah,
and so Teams is all very good. It's nice in the public cloud, except obviously when the Azure cloud goes down, which it has done on occasion. We've had some very notable Exchange outages in the last few weeks. But some companies, because of their regulatory environments, they have to have things on premises, which means, Teams, so that they'd look at using the likes of maybe Mattermost or a messaging platform which they can host on their own servers. So it is interesting to see where Microsoft goes with that, because that seems to be as they're doing more things that are hybrid. You're looking at Azure Arc, and they're going to group things together. You wonder if perhaps you see Teams spread out to more services.
Yeah, possibly. I really surprised we haven't seen anything sort of a Teams family kind of push yet.
Yes. Sorry, I've gone over it. I've gone over it in enterprise. Yes, I'm surprised as well. Although, to be quite frank, having seen how hard it can be to make Teams work at an enterprise level, I wouldn't want to try and get uncle or auntie to try and chat using Teams when they can barely use Skype, or even the click to chat thing which you're seeing in recent versions of Windows. I think Teams would be an order of magnitude more complex. I don't know how that's simplified actually.
Yeah, it'd be nice if there was a nice simplified version of it though.
Definitely, because Teams has got such a the video calling is very nice. It's got lots of really nice features in it, and certainly some of my family calls. It'd be nice to make use of the Teams transcription features, because I tend to always forget what I've been told to do. So
record them and play them back later.
Exactly, just get my list of bullet points. Richard promised to change the rubbish in the bin. So
change the rubbish in the bin. That's
sorry, take it out. Although really, in my house,
it gets you wrong even.
In my house, it feels sometimes I'm just changing it because it's like I put it out, I come back, it's full again. How did that happen? So
actually, I think that's the same for all of us, isn't it? There's a show title for you.
Yeah, I'm just surprised they haven't done more of a push for that. They've just used the Skype. They've added the Skype Meet now, but to kind of feel like really Skype's old technology now, and there should be some kind of consumer family version for Teams. Yeah,
I mean, it's disappointing with Skype because you kind of feel Skype had a massive opportunity at the start of this year, and they just blew it. They absolutely blew it. Teams and Skype, Microsoft had all the tech in place, I think. And then Zoom came out of nowhere, and it's now Zoom has become the verb. Going to Zoom people much like Googling for information. It's become the verb to do a thing. And I just think that there must be all kinds of discussions at a high level in Microsoft about how the heck this happened, because it just seems very strange. Although I did note that Zoom's share price did drop up a bit with the announcement of the vaccine, understandably.
Yeah, definitely it did. Yeah. Well, so what else have we got? So we've got .NET, but we've got the Xbox tonight.
Yeah, at the risk of grinding some gears, Gary did mention the fact that .NET 5 is cross-platform, and of course we do have some Apple information today as well.
Yes, indeed.
And this is obviously for those who've been sitting through the latest expulsions from Apple. That they finally announced pricing and availability for their ARM-based Macs, which is their move away from Intel Silicon, which is I think very, very interesting. Particularly again, if you're developing cross-platform stuff, you need as long as your framework supports it, you should be fine. But yes, it's interesting to see what these things are actually like, because we've seen a lot of stats and measurements about how quick they are. But I think once they're in people's hands, it'll be very interesting to see how well they run Intel code.
Yeah. So have you seen any prices for the new model?
I've seen that the Mac Mini that's appeared.
Well, that's the one you like, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I've got a very old Mac Mini here, which is still, it still works. It must be about 8 years old now. It still works, still works well, but of course, it's going to support for it will dry up because it's Intel based. So eventually it will stop. But I think I think they're still doing Intel Mac Minis, aren't they? But the low end Mac Minis are now coming with the M1 chip, and I think they start about $699.
Yeah, so it's $100 cheaper than it was previously on the old version.
Yes, it's dropped. So it's dropped a bit, and I think there's also the MacBook Air is the other one, and I think you can only get ARM-based MacBook Airs now. I think they've dropped the Intel ones completely. So yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I'm impressed that the pricing hasn't gone up, and as you say, Gary, it's dropped for the Mac Mini certainly.
Yeah.
Thing is, I've seen lots of stats about how fast it goes, but I've not got to the bottom yet if that's stats for it running native apps or if it's stats for it running in Intel.
Yeah, you can't tell. I mean, one thing I would say about Apple is that they do get their act together on these sort of chip changes. Usually, I mean, the transition when they went from the power chips to the Intel chips was very smooth. So once they've gone through the testing stage, I mean, a lot of stuff goes behind the scenes, which is if you're in that test cycle, it can be a nightmare. But the stuff when they actually deliver tends to be there. So I would think a lot of the native apps will be running natively on the M chip. I know things like we've already seen that Parallels is going to run natively on it. So there's a lot of things which are and that's an interesting one because obviously Parallels does do Intel emulation for Windows. So it'll be interesting to see how quick that runs. But, yeah, it's very, very interesting. I mean, obviously these chips are graphically they're definitely faster than the Intel ones they're replacing. So that should be noticeable even with Intel running emulation running. But yeah, it's always interesting how these things are done. I mean, if you've got your CPU 3 times faster and it takes you 1.5 times as much to actually do processing, you're still going to be faster. If you see what I mean in terms of.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and of course, it will also run things like iOS and iPadOS apps natively as well, won't it? So you've got a huge, big store of native apps from day one, which I think has always been the killer for Windows on ARM. There's not been the same library of native ARM apps, and of course, on the Windows machines, when they're running Intel code in emulation, you do feel like you're wading through treacle compared to native Intel. So
as someone else pointed out to me, the other thing they potentially could run is Android apps.
Yes. Yep.
So yeah, it's very interesting.
Can you honestly imagine a Mac running Android apps? Really?
Who knows these days? I mean,
Chromebooks run Windows. I mean.
Well, yes, but that comes back to that wonderful spec I was given for a Chromebook, which was an i7 with 16 gigs of RAM. I thought that's not a Chromebook anymore.
So devices, and I guess we're going to get, they will get better battery life.
Well, again, this all comes down to I would think if they're running native stuff, definitely. What I really want to see, I mean, is how well Apple are handling the Intel emulation, because as Gary said, they handled the last transition from Motorola to Intel back in 2000 and when was it, 2005, 2004? It was around then, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was around there,
yeah. And I mean, they handled that very, very well. So here, I'll be very interested to see how they cope with it, because in this instance, we've got experience of this already. We've seen how Microsoft have coped, and the answer is not particularly well. That may be through lack of focus or what have you, but lack of emphasis. Whereas for Apple, this is their thing. They have to make this work. Whereas Microsoft have always had the ability to fall back to Intel anyway. So it seems to be less of a priority there. Whereas here, this is Apple's. This is their dream to merge the iPad and the Mac lines into one and take even more control. God, you just got to love that walled garden.
Well, yeah, that makes it easier. Yeah. I mean, as ever, they look great devices. It's just for what I use, it wouldn't be good to me. But I still got my MacBook Air from 2000 and whatever it is, 10 down in the cupboard down there somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, a lot of these devices, if they've got an SSD, they'll be absolutely fine for years to come. Performance will be fine. It's I mean, I've got an old Windows laptop that I put an SSD in. Must be when the SSDs first began to become relatively available at a less horrifying price, and it's still going strong, and it's incredibly fast. The battery lasts about five minutes, but the rest of it's great.
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting when the benchmarks come out for these devices. I'm sure there'll be plenty of people doing benchmarking. For
sure, yes. I mean, as I said, I think it's going to come down to that Intel emulation. I would be astonished if native apps don't absolutely fly and you see incredible power from these, because let's face it, Apple's been doing it with the iPad for years. So I would think it's all very optimized. And of course, they own the hardware now, so they can really. There's no excuses for it not to be a wonderful experience. But we'll see how well the Intel stuff works.
Yeah, definitely.
And we'll see if there's any touchscreens. There won't be any touchscreens.
There was no touch screens, no. Right. Well, what other news did we have this week? Actually, it's fairly quiet week. We did get some Windows 10 builds, but we complain about we don't get enough new features, but now we're getting to the stage where they take them away and we don't give them us back.
They take them away and they give us ones where if you're in dark mode, it will now show some screens with dark text on a dark background, which is it's very Hitchhiker's Guide, isn't it, to be honest? So this was build 20251, I think, which is a dev channel build that came out, and there wasn't an awful lot in it, to be honest. I mean, there were a few, I'd say probably more issues than anything else. And I was disappointed to see that they managed to break some bits of dark mode. But hopefully they'll start to put some things back in fairly soon, because as it stands, I mean, did anything leap out at you with 20251?
No, there was nothing in there. There was no new features. There's just fixes and the usual known issues.
Yeah. But I was very excited to see the Your Phone stuff.
Yeah, that's quite interesting. So Your Phone is actually getting new features all the time if you've got a Samsung phone.
Yes, not a Surface Duo.
Not a Surface Duo. So interesting to see how this works better on Samsung. But I guess Microsoft and Samsung have been working together on this for some time now.
Yeah.
Whereas Surface Duo is a fairly new device. So what they talked about some time ago was running multiple apps in Android in Your Phone at the same time. I'll share my browser and then we can include that. Okay, so if you already prior to this, if you had a recent Samsung phone and Your Phone on Windows, I think it was the May update. If you have it later, you could not only mirror the Android screen, but you could actually run a single app. And what they've done with this new update is enabled you to run multiple apps side by side, or however you want to run them. So as you see, I was running them on my machine, just as you run a native Windows app. It just appears in sort of that rectangle block of the screen.
Well, you can't resize them, can you? You can't resize them.
No, the which you could do in the other version, in the previous version, you could have them as that shape, or you could have them full screen. On this now, they just have that sort of rectangle screen sort of block effect, the same as your phone screen. But it works really well. You can have multiple. I didn't seem to have any limits to how many apps you could have open. You can pin them. They run side by side. You can drag them around, and it worked really well. So if you're and I did this with the Note 20, and it works brilliantly. So quite a good way of working for Android apps. If you've got things like the Authenticator app or some app that doesn't run on Windows, you can run it through here.
And a recent Samsung phone, obviously.
Yeah, it's got to be a recent one. I think the 20, all the S20 ones and the Folds and the Flips and all those kind of things.
Because my S10 said no, absolutely not. It refused. I mean, but there are some weird limitations, because initially I was very excited, and then some odd limitations. One is obviously you've got to build as before, you've got to build on the same Wi-Fi network, which is irritating, but it's not the end of the world. But the sound comes out of the Android device, not out of the PC. That's really strange. For some apps that ping things up, when the ping happened, it was coming out of my it was coming from the wrong place.
Yeah, it's really weird, isn't it?
And that was very, and I also understand that there are some fairly major performance issues. I mean the kind of apps that I've played with it's not really an issue, but I understand that some users who've done some apps with animations, for example, have found it to be quite, the frames per second rate has been quite sluggish. So I think it's still a work in progress. But I'm really pleased to see them doing multi-apps, because for me the single app was just a gimmick. Multi-apps actually makes it quite useful now.
Yeah, you can leave it open. I think that's the thing I liked. The especially things like the Authenticator app, you could just leave it there, and then when you come to it, you need it, it's there, or your smart camera app or whatever.
Exactly. Although part of me did wonder, and obviously this does all still depend on you having the phone. With the Android apps themselves, I can't help wondering maybe they might let the Windows subsystem for the Linux guys loose and perhaps just have an entire Android kernel running in Windows, and then you would need a phone for the apps.
Maybe, yeah, but I think they did try it, didn't they, a few years ago? So
yeah, oh yes, I did. Yeah,
it's got to be a proper certified device, hasn't it, to pick up the Play Store and all that. So it's a whole world of complication when you start trying to do that.
Yes, and let's face it, they can't even make it work on the Surface Duo. So what chance have we got?
Yeah. So if anybody, how's the Duo work? Well, the Duo has the phone screen mirroring, and it works with both screens, but it doesn't do the app launching. Although it supposedly is coming soon, so it's in development.
Yeah, disappointing, I'd say that is, because you do want the Duo to kind of be the primary device, because I think those of us who remember the Windows phone days, we always remember kind of feeling like second class citizens, because it would always be other devices that got the toys first. The Windows Phone would come last, and kind of feels like, this is a really useful toy. Why hasn't it come to Surface Duo first? And it should do,
Yeah, especially. I'm interested how they handle. Maybe it's the dual screen, because how they handle that with the dual screen device. So does it pop up one window with two apps side by side? Does it split the screen into two? Because on the Duo you can run apps, two apps side by side. So I guess there's a bit of extra consideration to go into how they do that, which is probably why it's just not there from day one.
I hope you're right.
Yes. But yeah, anyway, so I did a little video of that as well, so you can check that out. Another video that I did this week as well with the Duo, which was, I thought I'd try and see some USB C docks and see how many would work with the Surface Duo. So I had a few of them lying around sort of here on my desk. So I tried, the three that I tried was the Dell USB C Dock, which is WD19130W, I think, which is 130 watts. Lovely names for these components. But yeah, the Dell one is just used with my Dell laptop and worked really well, actually. It mirrors the screen with the split screens, so you can side by side Android apps on there. Keyboard, mouse, charging, everything else worked on it. Display port or HDMI, and that worked fine. I also tried a little D-Link one of those little portable ones, those pocket ones, and that worked just as well. HDMI, USB, and charging as well. And for fun, I thought I'd try the old Lumia dock. Remember the?
Oh yes, yeah.
Yeah, the HD 500.
I've still got mine. I still use that for the HP. The Spectrum I'm running on, because it's one of the few ones which work with it.
And sadly, that didn't work. It would charge the Surface Duo, but it wouldn't work with the USB or the display, which I was kind of hoping that it would, because I think the last thing I tried it, I think it was on. Was it Richard on one of you on your what was that laptop shell case that you had?
Oh yeah, I forget it was called now. But yes, yeah, the kind of it was just basically screen and key. It's just a screen and keyboard, which would I've had two. I'm embarrassed to say I can't remember what it's called. Next up, thank you. Yes, I had the first one. Second one was a lot better.
Yeah. And I think I used it with that, but I've not had a huge amount of use with it. But it does work with the Surface Go, but yeah, not with the Duo as well. So I thought we'd try those, and definitely all the recent one. Somebody did tell me on Twitter there's a certain specification of the chipset that the devices need to support, and the Duo has got this newer chipset, and the old WD Microsoft dock doesn't support that chipset, whereas these D-Link and the Dell ones do. So that's why they don't work. But anyway, I thought I'd try it, and it actually makes quite a nice little desktop system, because with Android you kind of task switching all the time to go to multiple apps, but of course with the Duo you can side by side them on the screen. So it's a bit like Dex for the Samsung's Dex, but it's not quite as desktop, but it works. But I'm not sure what situation you'd be in where you'd want to use the Duo as your only device. But you can fire up Word, you can connect a keyboard and mouse, and and do some writing with there. So you can kind of use it, but yeah, I thought I'd give it a try and see what can be done with that. Oh, a couple of other videos that I've done as well. I'll try to do some more how-to videos. So I did one on how to use nearby share, because I was copying some files to devices. And I thought, hang on a minute, why am I emailing my files around when there's got to be a better way? I thought, oh yeah, nearby share. I always forget about that feature. So I've got a little video.
It's a good feature.
Yeah, it is really good actually, and yeah, it's something that you can quite easily forget. So I've put that back on there as well. Oh, I did another video I did as well. It was how to use the cloud clipboard. I know I talked about it on the show, but I hadn't done a video before. So if you're not doing Windows V, you need to be doing that. Forget Control V. Use Windows V. Regardless of whether it's syncing across, it's just having the clipboard history in there is so useful, especially when you moving chunks of text around that you don't have to keep, with the old clipboard, you lose it each time. But this saves it, so definitely make sure you're doing that. Oh yeah, there was one other thing I wanted to mention as well. We've got another update to 20H2 tonight.
Oh, did we?
Yes.
Anything in it?
Oh, it's super exciting. You're going to like this one. The well, apart from the security fixes, which we all love, but not particularly good, fun to talk about. There's an update for the 2020 daylight saving time start date for Fiji Islands.
Lovely. The question is, have they fixed the problem with Thunderbolt drives?
That is not on the list,
because that obviously cropped up. Well, that cropped up this week with 20H2, where there's a problem that appeared. I think it appeared late last week, and it turned up in the health dashboard very quietly, because Microsoft, very openly keep a list of all the problems that crop up, and it was a surprise one because you would have thought that they'd have caught all this stuff with 2004 or 20H1 that came back in May. And what this is I think it's if you got an external device, an NVMe drive with a Thunderbolt interface. So when you plug it into a Thunderbolt port, it can cause a blue screen. I think that's the issue. I think that's in the health dashboard. Please correct me if I'm wrong there, because
I haven't seen it.
I have been known to be wrong before. Yeah. So this is an issue which turned up, but apparently it also affects Windows 10 2004 as well. So it's kind of it's one that crops up in quite a few things.
Yeah, which is why it showed up in 20H2 then, because really all the core stuff was done in the May update.
That's right. So it's a little bit it's a bit concerning, really. Yeah, so it's kind of it's a driver verified DMA violation error is what you see when you plug it in, and they're still looking into it. And what this means is if you've got a device that's got a Thunderbolt port and this particular driver, which is, I think it's the I can't remember what it's called now, store something. Excuse me. This is from memory. And you're wondering why you're not receiving the October 2020 update. It's because of this. Microsoft. It first began to see reports about it in September, and Microsoft has now thrown up an update block for devices that are affected to stop people obviously receiving it, because the last thing you want is your machine to blue screen if you plug in a device. And I think we all remember the mayhem around Kindle devices back in the day, where you'd plug in a Kindle and Windows 10 would go bang. I think that was back in the anniversary update, was it, when that happened? This is obviously far less widespread than that, because it is a very particular kind of Thunderbolt device, but still, it's a bit frustrating to see it happen. Yeah, at this stage, you would have thought that would have been caught, really. So I'm not quite sure how it's made its way through to this point. But as I said, if you've not received the October 2020 update, it could be because of that.
Right, that could be blocked. Yeah.
Yeah. But if you have received it, be careful when plugging in a Thunderbolt NVMe SSD, because, as I said, Microsoft is still looking into it at the moment. I mean, they reckon there'll be a fix sometime towards the end of this month. But in the meantime, the advice is, if you've not been putting up with it, don't try and force it using the media creation tool or may update. They tend to block these things, usually for a good reason.
And they wouldn't have found it because everybody in Microsoft is using Surface devices which don't have Thunderbolt.
That's true. There is no Thunderbolt allowed on Surface devices because they're not happy about this security. I think was the justification given, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was. I think it's yeah. We'll see. Yeah, we'll see. I installed the October update on my gaming laptop, and no major issues on that. As long as I can still keep playing Project Cars, or then I'm fine. I'm fine with that. But I did notice I didn't get the translucent tile effect. It's still got the old style start menu, which was a surprise. I thought that would have just switched on automatically, but not on my machine.
Well, what's interesting is I've still got 2004 on one of my machines and 20H2 on the other, so I'm not entirely sure why one has because they're both in theory the same. So I'm not quite sure why one has got it and one hasn't. But I'm not going to force it. If Microsoft wants to leave it that way, that's fine. As you say, it's. I would quite like that start menu just because it looks nice. Although I don't know about you, I hardly ever use the start menu anyway. I just kind of press the Windows key and type what I want. So
yeah, that's what.
And of course, Power Toys Run has made me even lazier now because I just use Power Toys Run for everything. So
yeah. Just a bit of breaking news while I've got it. The price of the MacBook Air is going to be $999 starting price.
Really? Okay. Yeah. And what's the base spec?
I'm just trying to find that out. Actually, it doesn't seem to say on this press release, which is really good. I think it says it's basically the same as the previous spec as the previous version, except for it's 3.5 times faster and 5 times faster graphics performance.
Yeah, but 3.5 times faster than what?
Because
it's that sort of thing always enrages me when someone says it's X% faster. You think, okay, faster than what? You got to give me some metrics there. But yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be. I believe it's 8 gigs of RAM. The base model comes with, and 256 gigs of SSD. So. Yeah, that's not a bad price, though.
Yeah, not bad. And there's also a MacBook Pro as well for M1 13-inch at $1,299.
Nice.
Now, they're probably typical Apple. I suspect it's the same price in pounds as it is in dollars. That seems to be what they always do. So that.
Yeah, but still not a bad price. It would be nice if they had touchscreens, but particularly for the MacBook for the MacBook Air. I mean, I do wonder a little bit about where the overlap between the iPad Pro and the MacBook Air is going to come, because you think a MacBook Air costs that much. Fully tricked out iPad Pro, it's around the same price, isn't it? If not more.
Yeah.
But the MacBook Air is probably a more competent machine because you got the trackpad, and it's Mac OS. I'd say is better for productivity. I'm sure this will get some emails, but I think Mac OS is a better productivity OS.
Your emails too.
Yes, Richard _Speed on Twitter. Yes. Yeah. Whereas I think you'd have to be an ardent Apple apologist to insist that the iPad Pro is a great productivity machine compared to a machine running Mac OS, because it just you miss the windowing effect, you miss the trackpad, you miss the pointer.
It's funny, I actually not anything like comparable devices, but do you remember I had a Samsung S3 tablet, and I came across it the other day, and I thought I'm going to charge this up and see if I can sort of Microsoftify it a bit. So I put the Microsoft Launcher on there, put Outlook and OneNote, OneDrive, and got everything configured pretty much as I do with the Duo. So I thought I'll see how it works. And it works okay, but I just don't find a very good use case for an Android tablet. And where you see people, I mean, I don't use the iPad very much either. I've got a really old, one of the first Retina iPad minis, so I don't really use it very much. But I know people love their iPads, but it just seems to be that Android never quite gets over that. Everyone loves it on a phone, everybody uses it on the phone. I don't know if everybody loves it, but people use it on the phone. But it doesn't seem to have made that transition to tablet.
No. You're right. It doesn't really work. I mean, I've got an iPad which I bought about 6 months ago, and I do use that for bits of writing as well. And it's a great machine. It's always on. It's wonderful, really. Whereas, I do have an old Windows tablet, and I've got an Android tablet, and really they just don't work as well. It's sad to admit, they just simply don't work as well. I think Android is never really scaled up. I mean, I think you can see that with the Chromebooks. They don't really work too well when you try and scale Android apps onto Chromebook screens. Whereas I guess Apple, because the iPad's been around for so long now, and just seems to work better, really. Scaling apps from the iPhone to the iPad, and now, in theory, I guess they'll scale them onto the Mac OS screen.
I will.
What I have found that's changed since I've got the Duo is I tend to use in the past I tend to use the Surface Go for most stuff in the evening, and the laptop is sort of for productivity. So if I write a blog post, I'll probably do it on the laptop, but if the Go is near me, I'll just grab that one and do it. But if I wanted to do a bit of doom scrolling, as it seems to be the word that people use now, although it's not quite as bad recently, I was using the Surface Go for that. But actually now I'm using the Duo, so I'm finding I'm using the Duo a lot in the evening for sort of that scrolling, even sort of Reddit and Twitter on one, or just flipping it around and doing it the other way, the big screen sort of scrolling. But I do use it a lot, so I'm using my Go less for sort of that consumption now, which is quite interesting. But I have found that the Duo works really well for work stuff as well. So I'm really gaining that productivity. Although I'm not traveling around with it, I'm here at the desk. I have started using it for Teams calls and some other stuff now as well. And when a call comes in and you've got the split screen on it, and you're not losing the screen all the time and everything. I just find it really good for for productivity. So I can see where, aside from the novelty of having the two screens, I can see where Microsoft are coming from. And I really wish the Neo had an opportunity to come out this year, because I think that would have been a terrific device. Maybe not a mainstream device like the Surface Duo. It's a very niche device, an early sort of prototype almost. But I really do wish we'd seen that Neo this year, the more I've used the Duo.
Yep.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, the Duo, I still think it's a fairly flawed device. So I'm not keen on the sheer size of the bezels on it. I think it's probably too wide as well, too big. I'm not keen on the size of it, but I do think as a form factor, it's very interesting. And as you say, it would complement the Neo would be such a good complement for it. So it's a real shame the Neo didn't appear. Although I have to say, looking back at some of the early videos, you could see there was some hardware. It felt a lot earlier in the production process or prototyping process than the Duo was, because you could see the keyboard didn't really fit properly, and it was like a little bit awkward and strange. Whereas the Duo, I'm just looking at the Duo specs. They clearly had that device ready to go quite some time ago, and it was just a case of what do we put on it.
Yeah. Actually, you mentioned about the size. I actually find the single, I think I mentioned this before, but I actually find the single, even in the single screen mode with it flipped round, is actually a much better screen size to use than using the sort of tall, thin.
You do like a big phone though, Ian, don't you? Like a big phone.
I always have. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and the industry caught up with me, really, hasn't it?
It has, yeah. Well,
exactly.
You can't really say anything, Richard, because it was right.
yeah. I mean, Panos, he wakes up every day and says, "What would Ian do? What would Ian do?"
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So that's why that's on there. I mean, when I look at the note that I had, it's not. I don't know what revision of the note they went from being wide to being tall and thin, but. I think it might have been was it the one that set on fire where they changed them to the thin mode? I can't remember, but I know that they used to be quite wide, so they were great for notes. But this is, I think, as a phone, maybe the S20 is probably the optimal one, because with the pen, this is too narrow for use with a pen, really. But of course, the problem with the Duo with the pen is where do you put your pen? There's no little pen holder.
I mean,
but you can put it in your top pocket, of course.
I mean, if I was going to go for note taking, I'd probably go for a Surface Go anyway.
Yeah, I think I do like the Surface Go for meetings is absolutely a brilliant, best device that I've had for that. But all my meetings are virtual nowadays, unfortunately. But that's okay because I've got multiple screens here, so you can I can be in a meeting and still have another screen over. And that's one reason why I like using the Duo actually, because I can leave the screen. I can use the Teams screens on the Duo, leave it in the laptop mode, and have my laptop completely free. So it works quite well for that. Until the people put cameras on, they see that you're not paying attention. But of course, don't do that. Okay, what else did we have? So I think that's everything I had. It was a bit.
Well, I guess there was the screen time feature you mentioned on the Duo.
Yeah, I did forget. Yeah, screen time feature was another thing they've added to the Duo. So this was available on the launcher. I think a lot of Android phones have this now. I think the old phones have it now, but this is available on the launcher, but not on the Surface Duo for some reason. But they've added back in now, so it now shows you how much time you've had, what you spent. I think all the phones do. I think Apple have it as well. I think it's called digital health or something, digital well-being or something like that. The one good thing about it on the Duo though is it does support split screen, which is nice as well. So so you can have it so that it shows you both on there. If I can do it one-handed where I'm talking to you, there we go. Yeah, so you've got this week, and but what I did notice is I'd spent way too much time on Twitter over the weekend. I think it was on Saturday where I was watching the American election results. So it is quite a good app, really, because I think really I probably spent too much time. That's unhealthy amount of time doom scrolling. So
you see, you've mentioned that, and now I've got to have a drink. That's good. We got the whole show without mentioning it once.
Yeah, but it's not anymore, is it? Now it's all happy and great, and everything's fine now, so we're okay.
Oh, bless you.
Yeah. 12 months' time, I'll be sat here with me Neo. Well, we'll all be sat together. Everything will be fine. Being on a holiday, we'll all be down the pub. It's all be fine.
Exactly. We'll be down the Museum of Computer History arguing about the Commodore 64 versus the ZX Spectrum versus TI 99444A and regress about 40 years.
That sounds like a very good plan. That. Yeah, I think we'll let that.
Just see it now. Hardware sprites. Oh, color clash.
Color clash. Nothing wrong with color clash.
Resolution. Sound. The SID chip.
6102.
Yeah, 6502. Z80. TMS 990. What?
Yeah.
The microdrive was is the best storage system you can get.
You know what? It does have its uses, definitely. I mean, I can remember seeing those carts flying across the room at great speed. Spewing tape as they did so. They were terrible. They were so bad. The micro. What was he thinking? I would love to. It's obviously too late now. I'd love to step back and just ask them what were you thinking with the microdrive? Because it's just cheap, I guess. Yeah, because there are so many great things in those Sinclair machines. Really clever, really clever cost-saving ways of doing stuff, and then other things like the microdrive, which were just appalling. And send your emails about that to Ian Dixon at the digital.
Actually, I mean, my theory on that was the whole point of it was consumables. It was a way of actually making money because everything, the prices were all being forced down on computers at that point. There was the sort of competition was strong, and then you potentially with the microdrive you actually had ongoing consumables. You could get a slice off.
You could be right. Did you reckon the same thought process applied to the Amstrad 3-inch drives?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that one I'm more certain of because I had something inside conversation of that one. So yeah, the whole point was you could potentially make revenue going forward as a manufacturer rather than giving it away to people like TDK.
Oh yes, microdrives, and my friend was a big into Spectrum as well. I need a wafer drive. Do you remember them?
Yeah. Wow, yeah. Crikey. Although, see now flashback to the old Commodore disk drive, which is almost a computer in its own right, wasn't it? Was it the 15141 or 15? Yeah,
About
sorry.
5 1/4 with a clicky thing that.
It was, yeah, but it was a very intelligent device because it had to do some very clever things. But now I'm just getting very, very nerdy about everything. So.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't seem that long ago since you know, if you were in an office or your home office would have a rack of floppy disks in a box. You know, I had the box with them all in different sections, and it doesn't seem that long ago. In fact, right here in front of me is one of my Korg synthesizers that's got a 3.5-inch floppy drive built into it, and I've got a library of disks for that as well.
Yep. Oh well. Well, as
yeah.
I said, next year we shall all tank down to a museum and play with all the old hardware and nerd out massively. And you can keep your Xbox Series X's and your .NET 5s and your ARM-based Apples. You know, let's get the old Apple. The Apple IIe out. Here we go.
Yeah. Maybe we can have an argument over which was the best 1980s home computer.
Exactly. Who lasted longest on Oregon Trail or whatever.
You have died.
Well, actually, last time I was there, the Cambridge one, the Museum of Computer History in Cambridge, they actually had the Hitchhiker's Guide to Galaxy running on a few of the machines there, and I realised just how terrible I was at that game. the old Infocom text adventure.
Oh yeah, I because was it an anniversary of it? Was it last year or something like that? There was an anniversary.
Yeah, Infocom, yeah.
Yeah, and they republished it, didn't they? So you could do it through the browser, and I think. Yep. And I still struggle to get out of the bedroom.
Yeah, pretty much. So I found some fluff in my pocket, and that was it. Dead. Oh, I've died again. Or I've been I've been transported, and I've died again. So yes, it was very surreal and strange.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to explain what those text-based adventure games, how much fun they were to say my 18-year-old who's just unpacking his Xbox, you know, the games that they've got now, it's quite difficult. But they don't. It's a shame that genre has died out because books haven't died out. You know, we still read books and we have films. So it's a shame that text genre of games.
In some ways, I'm surprised that there aren't more around because, you know, whenever you see people using, you know, say, you know, hackers or what have you on TV, they always tend to be typing away in the command line, aren't they? So you think surely you'd be used to your text adventures, particularly ones like the Infocom ones, which, you know, had the first kind of conversational engines on them, so you can actually talk to them and have a chat to them. Whereas you know, which was a jump from the go north, take that, open that, and whereas in Infocom you could say do this, do that, and have a chat. And of course, then there was the Jinxter. Do you remember Jinxter? I can't remember. Was that Rainbird? Magnetic Scrolls.
Right.
There we go. You see, Magnetic Scrolls did a whole range of Infocom-esque type games, except they included some gorgeously drawn graphics in there too. So, yeah, they had some superb. I think it was a Pawn and PAWN, Jinxter. And a number of others, and they had an even more advanced conversational engine where you could almost feel as though you were talking to it. It was incredibly clever, really.
I'm surprised they had none of the chat engines. Telegram or WhatsApp or something like that. That'd be brilliant to have.
Well, I'm sure some do. I mean, some of the bot engines. I mean, I get annoyed as heck when I go on sites and the thing pops up saying, "Oh, do you want to chat to a salesperson?" It's not a salesperson; it's a bot I'm talking to here. Yeah. Because the first thing it says, "Take me to a human," because I just know it's going to go awfully wrong. But yes, I mean, you're all right. You know, certainly thinking back again, we're talking 30, 35 years ago. Those conversational text adventure engines were often better than the bots we see today, because I mean, Ian, you've both programmed the bots before, you know, the chat bots from Microsoft. A lot does depend on what you put into them. You know, they aren't, they'll kind of understand meaning to a certain extent, but you have to give them paths to go down. So, whereas I guess those skills date back to the likes of Infocom and Magnetic Scrolls.
I mean, something like the Power, is it called the Power Bot platform now or something, the Microsoft Power platform. There is a bot that you can
Power
use.
virtualizations, yeah.
Yeah.
Power PVAs. Which
Yeah,
I gave a talk about a couple of weeks ago. So.
Yeah, I mean, you can get a demo account. I had to go and I created a little help desk type of thing with it. But actually, you could pretty much do, if you put the time and effort in, you could pretty much do a game in something like that.
Well, I mean, I did do one using Power Virtual Agents. I did do one that played Mornington Crescent. So
that's a good use to find.
But that was quite easy, to be honest. It wasn't that complicated. It was just a whole bunch of London tube stations.
Yeah.
Well, maybe then we know Gary's nice and quiet at the moment, so he could knock one of those up for us for next week's show of a virtual text adventure game through a bot for a virtual agent that we can play next week.
Well, I think what we should do is perhaps if Gary did one and it could replace me, so you can.
I might have to do one to replace me next week because apparently I'm on Channel 9 next week. I don't know how I've managed to be recruited for that, but I'm not sure it doesn't clash.
Excellent. What will you be talking about, and when can we see it?
I'm not sure when it's going to come out. It's called the Powerful Dev Show. So it's all about these hybrid dev teams of sort of power apps and normal developers. So citizen developers and pro developers working together on stuff.
Brilliant! That sounds great.
It's quite fun. So yeah, I've been asked to go and talk on that. So
get your
several interviews. Ready. I will try.
We know we can have one. As long as you do one for Richard, we can do one with a rant and reminiscing about a TI 99, and I think we would have it covered.
Happy days.
Well, great. Well, it was great to get you back on. So, Richard, where can we find you?
Mainly on Twitter at Richard_Speed.
And Gary, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Gary with 2 R's WMA.
Excellent stuff. And you can find me at Alex Dixon on Twitter. And we'll be back same time, same place next week. And see you next week.
There you go.
Cheerio.